All right, welcome. So this video is about how to develop self-discipline and focus. So we're just going to be covering the importance of self-discipline and focus when it comes to becoming successful. And we're basically just going to explain why it's so important to build these things and then how you can build discipline and a relentless level of focus. So without further ado, let's get into the two most important factors to success. That being discipline and focus. So when we want to become successful, that will require effort and it will require change. It will also require something called momentum. The way we build momentum is through a combination of disciplined action and focus. Focus meaning we are focused on taking the right actions consistently, and discipline meaning we do those actions regardless of how we feel in the moment. And by combining these two things, we create a level of momentum and we create a level of flow that allows us to penetrate through barriers of resistance within growing and becoming successful. So when it comes to success, that means that we are basically required to keep our attention fixated on one area and use discipline in order to keep taking action on that one thing. And this is how we become successful, because we build up these small wins over a long period of time, which compound into big results. So discipline is really important because we need to understand that we're not always going to feel like doing the work, right? We're not always going to be motivated. We're not always going to feel our best. That's a given. That's a fact, right? But if we want to become successful, we have to do the work regardless of whether we feel like doing it or not. You can think of many factors that may affect how ready you are able to do the work, right? For example, if you're young, typically young people are very motivated. But if you're older and you want to create change in your life, you cannot do so without discipline. You must have discipline in order to make that change in your life, right? And so that's where discipline comes in. And especially for people who are younger, instilling discipline while you're young, while it's easy, will have an impact on you when you get older, giving you the ability to make changes and even become more successful in your 40s and 50s because of the fact that you have the ability to be disciplined and you've instilled that in. And at that point, it is much harder to become successful at things, so having that discipline instilled will be a benefit. But having discipline regardless is what will determine whether or not you can see massive levels of success or not. Those who are younger now may think, I don't need to be disciplined because even if I do some of the bad habits, even if I skip a day of work, I'm still able to work to the fullest of my capacity. And the reason I argue with this is because it will catch up eventually, right? You not putting in all the work that you can right now will catch up to you eventually. You won't feel invincible forever, right? And that's kind of the key. That's the point. You won't feel invincible forever, so you might as well take advantage of it while you have it now. So while you are young, instill discipline into the things that you really care about, because some people will argue that it's important to live life when you're young and go out and party and drink and do all of these different degenerate things. But in reality, when you're young, this is the time for you to build your life. This is the time for you to become somebody. This is the time for you to build something for your future. And if you want to do so, you have to instill discipline. You have to stay focused. And when you get to your mid-20s, your late 20s, your 30s, the difference between you, the person who's going to be disciplined, the person who's going to stay consistent, and the people who are out partying, enjoying life, is going to be massive. And the quality of life difference will be massive, right? You will have a much better quality of life if you instill discipline now. Because the trick, the fallacy is that life is about these vices, life is about these things, and in reality, to live life is really just to fulfill your purpose. That is all living life really is, and that's the only outlet for us that allows us to feel alive, right? It is the only thing that we can do that will allow us to have that full feeling of invigoration and just pure bliss, I guess you could say. Without purpose, we don't actually feel that fulfilled. And so we turn to these vices as a way of feeling like we're having fun. But in reality, the most fun we could ever possibly have is achieving our purpose and working to the fullest of our capacity to do so while we're young, in my opinion, is the best feeling there ever was and that there ever will be, is to be young, ambitious, and aligned with your goals. So the next thing is actually focus. We know about how important focus is, but why is it so important? The degree of our focus determines the degree of our progress, right? The degree we become successful is the degree of our focus. So if we are fully focused, if we are fully concentrated on what we're doing, we can achieve a lot more within that than if we are constantly distracted. Every time our attention is pulled away from what we're doing, there's something called attention residue, where basically you can pull your attention back to the task, but there is still a part of your brain thinking about the last thing or the thing that distracted you, right? And it takes some time to become fully locked back into the task. So making sure that we have a high level of focus will determine whether or not we can actually completely do the work, or if we will be constantly getting distracted. And when you're constantly getting distracted and you're not able to really focus in, really hone in, really put in the effort to create something, that is how we end up with a ton of incomplete projects and tasks that just keep building up in the background, right? We get this burst of excitement, think we want to do something, and then we don't put enough energy or effort into that thing in the moment to dial in, focus in, and actually work through it. And then we get distracted, and then it becomes that much harder to refocus on that thing. And when you build up 1,000 different things you want to focus on, it's almost impossible to focus on any of them. So how can we build self-discipline and relentless focus? So we'll talk about each individually, but this tool can actually help us to do both, right? And that is routine. Having a routine and a clear daily routine is going to allow us to instill discipline. We know exactly what we are wanting to do every single day and at exactly what time. And so there's no resistance in our mind for what to do. And therefore we only have to deal with the resistance towards doing that specific thing. And that makes it easier to be disciplined because what we have to do is very clear. It also makes it easier to stay focused because if every single day we're doing all of the same things, it's very likely that we will become very focused on those specific things. And so now we'll talk about self-discipline specifically. How do we build self-discipline? And then we'll go into how to build focus. So when it comes to self-discipline, we have to understand what's called a growth mindset. A growth mindset states that we will improve, we will be able to grow so long as we put in the effort. We can achieve anything and we can learn any skill so long as we put in the effort. Limitations are not permanent, they are a result of a lack of repetition. So with this mindset, we understand that things aren't going to suck forever, right? This isn't going to be as difficult as it is right now forever. If you're trying to start a YouTube channel, if you're trying to start your own business, if you just want to get onto self-improvement, it's not going to be as difficult as it is right now forever, right? That will change over time, right? So by following through on it now, using discipline now, we can understand that it'll be easier in the future. One of the difficulties that comes with discipline is the lack of understanding that it's going to stop being that difficult at some point. A lot of people think it's going to suck forever. It's not. It doesn't suck forever, but if you have self-discipline, you can work through the resistance a lot faster, build up your skills a lot faster, and therefore it'll become easier sooner. But if you are allowing your resistance to something to stop you from actually going and achieving it, well, then you are going to continue to struggle with this specific resistance, with this pain, right? It is going to suck. But if you instill discipline and you follow through on it now, over time it will get easier. Over time you will get better at that thing. And the other thing is just to make sure we do it every day, right? If you just make sure that you get the repetition in each and every day, you will slowly over time build more and more discipline. And if you build discipline in one area, it will be a lot easier to apply that discipline to other areas of your life. So now, how do we instill and develop relentless focus, right? How do we develop focus? Well, the first thing is when we define our goals, we have to define a goal that we really care about. Otherwise, we will lose focus. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep focused on that specific thing. Because if you don't care about the goal, if you don't care about the thing you're trying to achieve, well, you'll get distracted very easily, right? If, let's say, your goal is to make money, but you don't really care about money, or you don't care about the business model you're pursuing to make money. Let's say you do care about money, but you don't care about the business model you've chosen. Well, if you are presented with another business model that may be either easier or that you think could make you money faster, well, then what's going to happen is you're going to move over to that one next. And then you don't really care about it, but it seems like an easier option. And then you see something else that may be a better option. And you'll bounce all over the place because your goal isn't defined in something that really matters to you. Your goal is defined in the general idea of making money, but you haven't yet decided on a business model that you care about and created a plan to go and achieve that. So what you have to do is you have to choose a goal that is really meaningful to you, and that way it's easier to stay focused. The next thing is to remove any aspects of your lifestyle that may derail you from that specific goal. So everything in our lifestyle, and this sounds to a lot of people as extreme, it shouldn't be if you really want to become successful. But if it does sound extreme, it's not likely you'll be able to be successful. However, 100% of your lifestyle should be dedicated towards whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And this means that we remove anything that may pull us away from the work that it takes to achieve that goal. Now, the next tool that I'm going to give for developing focus is specific to while you're working, while you're in the task. But this is a skill that I use all the time, and it has helped me to achieve a lot more than I ever thought possible, right? And to produce an amount of work that I used to only be able to produce in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I can do that in a few hours now. So when we're meditating, what we're doing is we're focusing our attention onto the breath. And then what happens when we become distracted is we recenter our attention back to the breath. So we observe and notice we became distracted, and then we come back to center, focus back on the breath. Now, when it comes to work, we can use that skill very similarly, and that can allow us to build more and more momentum within that work task. Get ourselves into more of an effortless flow state is a way to put it. So when the work feels effortless, this is the optimal state for us to be working in. This is where we will produce the best possible output. So to get to this state, we need to start working on something that is important, something we need to get done. And then we need to focus on doing it and slowly work our way into it. And then as we notice our attention get distracted or derailed, what we do is we pull it back to the task at hand and try to go just a little bit deeper than we were before and try to focus our attention a little bit more than we did before. And if we do this consistently over a long period of time, the end result is that we end up in this deep flow state and our entire brain is focused completely on that task. And then anytime we notice ourselves getting pulled away, we just pull it right back. And with this, we can sustain this state for however long we need to complete the task. So that is a specific skill that you can use to focus deeper in your work tasks. So utilizing flow state and habits to maximize results. So these two things are key, right? When we use flow state, right, flow state is that feeling of effortless output, right? We are producing the best work, but with minimal effort, it feels like. And this is because we are actually in a state of so much effort that our brain and body no longer have to fight or resist itself in order to get into that work bout, into that motion, into action. And so action feels effortless. And with this state, if we keep working and keep pushing through that, what will happen is we will output more than we're capable of outputting on any other day or in any other state of being, right? So when we have flow state, when we're able to enter flow state, and we can do it on command, right? I personally am able to enter flow state on command now. Either that's just because of meditation or it's just because of my understanding of flow state, but I can enter flow states on demand, which means I'm able to maximize my results with little time, little effort, little energy, and therefore do it more of those things, right? So let's say it's 2 hours of work. I can do 6 hours of work. I can produce a lot more with a lot less time. And so therefore, if I keep going, I can actually output what I consider to be maximum output, right? So what we want to do is we want to maximize results through flow state. And the other thing is we want to create a habit. So if we have a habit around, a specific work block, a specific work task, and if we utilize habits in order to optimize our work environment, right? So when I get here, I have a specific set of habits, right? My specific set of habits is as soon as I take my shoes off, I put my bag down, I grab all the stuff that I need for whatever task I have to do. So if it's recording, I grab my phone and my notebook, I set everything up, and then I just kind of stand here until I'm ready to get started. And so that specific habit, the habit of coming and setting myself up immediately, optimizes my flow for when I get here, I can just think about work itself, right? So small things like that. The other thing is the habit of showing up in general. I have a specific habit of being here at a specific time every day for a specific amount of time. And so because of that, I'm able to every single day at least get the smallest amount of work done, if not a good amount of work, right? Every day that I have the capability to, I can get a lot of work done. And every day that I don't feel like working, well, I'm already here, I'm already set up, so I might as well just do what I can, and then when I'm over it, and I can move on. But because I have that habit, even on days where I would normally skip, I'm able to still get stuff done. So that is all I have for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy, and if you did, leave a like, and also comment down below anything you may have learned from the video or any lessons you may have taken from the content. I always like to see that. But that is all I have for this video. And if you want to see more content like this, you could subscribe, or you could go and check out my TikTok or my Instagram. Both are in the description of this video. But that is all I have, though, so I'm out of here. Peace.